Hello everyone. So today's topic is Audre Lorde, right? In Thinker series, we have done almost all the thinkers. There is three, four thinkers, are left. So I'll do it today and tomorrow. I'll try to finish it as soon as possible. So let us just start with the today's topic, that is Audre Lorde, right? You can see the timeline 1934 to 1992. See, she is very famous. She is known for her work of the definition of an altar. See, what I'm discussing here, two, three thinkers like in the last class I have discussed the Chris Tiber, right? And other than that, today we are going to do with the Audre Lorde. So these thinkers are coming from somehow a philosophical background, where she has put forward the ground for the, she has worked for the philosophical base, right? See, these thinkers are not, the kind of, as we have seen in other thinkers who is coming from, the women's suffrage movement or the organization, that these are not works in the way of revolution or the legislative reform politics. These thinkers has given somehow the idea of the unique creativity or the uniqueness, the change from individual perspective, not from the societal institutions, right? So that's what I mean to say. So she has been known for an altar. What is this altar? Altar is a special place or structure used in religious ceremonies where people make offerings, prayers, or sacrifices. Right. So, of course, in Sanskrit we use the term garbhagri. Garbhagri. All of what I can say that this is a main, the core place, like what we have seen in the case of temple, the place of where the deity has been placed, right? The garbhagri, right? The middle of the temple, right? So it's often seen as a sacred spot where people connect with the divine or spiritual forces. For example, in many religions, altar might hold candles, flowers, food, or other symbolic items during worship. Right. So this is what a place of the worship, what we can say the altar is. So she has right that her whole life has been altar, and what it means that she collapses the boundary between life, her own life, and the liturgy. What this liturgy is, the way in which in the context of Christian worship, we can say the how we was offered the worship, the flowers to the god, right, to the deity, right? So what it means that she is not simply living, she is performing a sacred ritual offering, and this of sacrifice, what of sacrifice or innovation. So you just for notice, or just for a common sense, that this couldn't be linked with the way of the worship, or the in the form of religion. She is preparing a ground for a philosophical work, from where she has comparing that scenario, right, with this, that she is talking about that my life is all about sacrifice, right, or innovation, right? And so that's what her means of that when she's saying my whole life as an altar. And this is a site of worship, surrender, and transformation, right? Transformation change, right? So here it becomes mobile, integrated into the very fabric of her being, right? Her existence is a continual ceremony, that she is talking about, that we didn't have to offer every day like flowers or the worshipping, the way we live, in a way of the sacrifice, innovation, creation, transformation, right? This is about what our life is, right? So this is when she is talking about the continual ceremony, that doesn't mean that we are offering prayers to the deity, right? That's what I'm just making you the point here. So other than that, she refuses to localize this altar, right? Alter within institutionalized religion, institutionalized religion, right? So or a designated space. Other than that, instead of that, what she is doing, her entire being across geographies and histories is a living prayer, one that calls on ancestral presence and sacred female power, right? Ancestral presence and sacred female power, right? So she calls upon, the ancient African goddesses, that she is coming from that background, that she is talking about Oya. What this Oya is, I mean, this is all character and deity. I mean, coming from the, this is all a type of, deity, right? I didn't have. I mean, I don't did. I mean, I haven't done a lot of research on this goddesses and their mythological place, but I'm just trying to give you a little bit perspective, because, and this is not important for our, the exam also. So Oya is known for the Yoruba goddess of winds, right, or storms and transformation transformation. See, the Caesar Lisha is the best African goddesses, often linked with justice, and this is linked with, uh, this is you always paired with the male counterpart, right? And this is known for this is a Caribbean African really, I mean, religion, or somehow whatever it is, but it linked with, the transformation for us why these goddesses matter, because Audre Lorde has discussed these goddesses, use these goddesses, their place, their mythological position, right, in their on philosophy, or in the way of creating feminist discourse, right? So she is not merely referencing cultural symbols, she embodies their energy, the real meaning, energies, right? Energies. These goddesses signify primordial feminine power she is using as a symbol, right? uh, Feminine power and sacred resistance, also a non-western metaphysics of selfhood, right? This is what she is saying. She chooses retung deities, goddesses who have, who have survival colonial silencing, right? Colonial silencing, and speak again through black women like herself. It's a decolonial act of invocation. I mean, see, just forget it all. What I'm saying, in summary, that she is presenting the goddesses, the picture, the mythological character here, and she is trying to portray, she is trying to preserve the black identity from there, right? She is bringing some ideas from there, right? And this is what she is calling it as a decolonial act of invocation. Decolonial act of